Poke the Bear is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
And welcome into Poke the Bear episode 273, presented by Prize Picks and Game Time Tickets. My name is Conor Ryan. Once again, we are joined by the esteemed Ty Anderson of 98.5 The Sports Hub. Ty, how you doing?
I'm all right. I'm better than the Bruins. Again, I can't believe that I'm saying that once again. But here we are. And it just seems like every day is every game is like the same kind of conversation, the same kind of tenor of the conversation. So, I guess I'm better than the Bruins right now, but which is not saying much as it turns out in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah, it is. It's very much like a time is a flat circle kind of thing going on with the Bruins right now. It's very True Detective, and the Bruins cannot find any sort of answer. And I think you look at their last game on Tuesday against the Flyers, a pretty poor Flyers team that's really been struggling to find their game, come away with a 2-0 win over the Bruins. And again, like typical John Tortorella team, 28 block shots, I believe, but still, Bruins didn't do nearly enough to ramp up the pressure, generate urgency in the offensive zone. You're trailing 1-0 going into the third period, get 3 shots on goal the rest of the way. Ty, what the hell was that last night? Because that was I would say an arduous game to get through.
Yeah, I mean, you want to use that term, I'll use the term unacceptable. The Flyers entered that game, having given up 40 goals through 9 games, the worst team in the Eastern Conference. They compete hard, and they battle, but this is why you're the Bruins and they're the Flyers. They're a rebuilder who has to win on guts and balls and blocking shots, and you win because you break that down with your natural skill. And listen, the Bruins haven't been off to a great year. I understand that part of it, but if you look at this roster versus that roster, like there's no excuse not to work. There's no excuse not to when they give you 4 power play opportunities, including a 137 of a 5-on-3, and you get nothing. I don't think they had a shot on goal. Like, it's inexcusable. It's unacceptable. And I think that's sort of like the greater picture here is that we've been talking about something just being off with this team, like the vibe or the energy, the flow, like something is just weird. And I think even looking beyond the 5-on-5 the power play, look at the 5-on-5, what you alluded to, like it's a chore. Watching this team right now is a chore. They have no synergy. They have no chemistry. Tape-to-tape passes are even that's a nightmare for them right now. And so it's just hard to watch this team right now because they look so disjointed and disconnected.
Yeah, and I think also you look at just the lack of getting any sort of momentum, like beyond like the chore of how they are executing on the ice. It's frustrating when you have that game on Saturday where you come away and you beat the Maple Leafs. You finally get the win you needed against another team like Toronto that I know is maybe struggling a little bit as well, but still a team you expect to see in the playoffs, your rival. You get an overtime win there. You bounce back after things kind of go haywire at the end of that third period. You're like, all right, we're still kind of swimming against the tide, but you get the win. Let's get rolling, get a little bit of momentum here. And then you just lay an egg. And I think that's where you said like the vibes are off. It's like you don't usually, again, every team goes through ruts, but like this team and what they've done the last couple of years, even last year where that was a team that was a lot shorter in terms of talent. Like they didn't fall into these ruts, or you didn't have these games where like how they played on Tuesday was shocking in terms of just how they weren't able to carry any sort of momentum against a lesser team. And, I don't even care about like what the opponent is, who they played against. You weren't going to win or beat any team playing the way they did. And that was shocking, I think, just of their own execution. And it's the same thing. It's the urgency is not there. And that's really concerning.
Yeah. And I don't know how many more times you can have that conversation of like, you got to get a better start. You got to connect on the power play. You can't give the puck away. You can't take bad penalties. You got to be more connected as a 5-man unit in the defensive zone. I think the great crime here is what you let fall off the table, both on the micro and the macro. Of you win that game against Toronto, that's a hell of a building block. That's a win that's worth 2 wins in my opinion. Just given the way it's looked, given the stakes, the tenor, all of that are around your team, and so to let that not be built upon ahead of a 3-4 this weekend where you're on the road for 2 of them, and then you get Seattle who can lull you to sleep, as we've seen their visits to Boston in the past. Like this was a gimme, right? Like the Bruins shouldn't be the get right team for another team. Like the Bruins should be feasting on get right opponents, and it doesn't feel like that's the case right now. You get shut out 2 times in 8 days, and one of them is by UC Saros. And listen, he's a great goaltender. I'm not going to take that away from him. He's had a tough start, but he's a great goaltender. But still, they're winless. He was playing awful. You get nothing. And then you get shut out last night by Sammy Urson, who I think he's in a bad spot, personally. I don't know if he's fully ready to be a full-time NHL goaltender, but he is. The Carter Hart situation made that so. But he has an 872. Gave up 5 goals on, I think, 27 shots his previous outing. Like, you got to win that game. You got to make life harder than they did, and I just don't think they made it harder. I don't think they made it as hard as they could on Philadelphia in this game.
And then you also look at just in terms of making things harder on yourself now. That was also a game you needed to have because now all of a sudden you're going up or going on the road down to Raleigh to play the Hurricanes, and that place has been a house of horrors for you. So if there was ever a time for you, and again, you take it one step at a time, whatever. If you're looking ahead, that is not the kind of get-right game that the Bruins are going to have. And again, you're now on the opposite side of that script where Carolina's probably like, all right, this team's playing like shit. We already have owned them in this building before. Like, the Bruins are just making things so much tougher for themselves in terms of getting any sort of momentum now going into, again, a team like Carolina that going into the year, you're looking at how many guys Carolina's lost, and you're like, oh, are they going to take a little bit of step back there? They're still playing to their strengths. They're still very structured. They're still very fast. Like they're playing to their strengths. And the Bruins, like, I think the biggest issue is like, what are the Bruins' strengths right now? Like, what is their identity? Because I couldn't tell you what it is right now. It's just, it's freeform jazz is the Bruins right now. They're just doing kind of whatever. And it all sounds terrible.
Yeah, no, it's not great. And I think the other part of that too is like, are there any players that you look at right now and say, oh, they're playing up to their level? Like, I can't name one. I think the goaltending. I mean, it's the 4th line. I think the goaltending has been better than the numbers would indicate because the play in front of them has been so poor. I mean, even that the Tyson Forster goal that ends up being the game winner. Like, I don't love the coverage there. I don't love the breakdowns there. Like, a guy should not be that wide open to get that kind of shot off. You got to block that shot, or you got to get better coverage on them. Like it's just, they're a mess right now. You look at their numbers, you do deep dives on their analytics and beyond the raw data, because we know the raw data is not very good, but look at the analytics. They don't create enough. They don't defend well enough. Their only saving grace has been their goaltending at 5-on-5, which has been actually really good. Look at their 5-on-5 goaltending. I think it's the 8th or 7th best in the league so far. So that's the only thing they have going for them right now, it feels like. And that's not typically a recipe for long-term success, because your goaltending, as we saw last night, as we saw on Tuesday night, you cannot win games 0-0. You can't do it. And so that's a problem for them right now.
And again, you're also further twisting the knife of how disappointing Tuesday's game was, is that you have Korpisalo, who hasn't played in seemingly 3 months, it feels like. I think it was 13 total days. Yep. He goes in against a team like that and was really good. Had a lot of grade A stops, did exactly what you need from your backup goalie there in terms of giving you a lift and keeping you in a game that you needed to have. And the Bruins behind or in front of him did absolutely nothing to support him, which, again, like, the bigger picture is the team, but you got to help out your goalie who's giving you a chance to win that game, or at least get a point out of it. Hell, the fact they couldn't get 1 goal across in that third period and try to get something out of it when you have Korpisalo playing at that level, it's a waste, because you got to take, I think, every opportunity and make the most of it when he's on his game like that, as he's trying just to find his footing with this team.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if we look at the math right now, Swayman's on pace to start 57, 58 games. So that means that means that Korpisalo is going to get about 24, 25. And so you got to capitalize on those games when he gives you the good ones, right? And he's not always going to give you the good ones. And I think we've seen that so far, where he is going to be prone to an ugly goal here or there, or a goal that makes you go, oh, would have liked to save there. But if he gives you a night like that, 17 of 18, natural stat trick had him down for 7 for 7 on high danger opportunities against, like, you got to win that game. Like that, like those points cannot fall by the wayside, mainly because like you're not going to have that 50-50 split that you have with Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman, where if Ullmark or Swayman had a bad outing, you had a feeling in your head, okay, well, they're going to make it up. Like they're like, I don't get that same vibe with Korpisalo. It's not a knock on him. It's just not, I don't think that's who he should be for this team. Like he's not going to be the guy who, you know, if he's not going to save you most nights. So if he does that, you got to win that game. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, just frustrating all around in terms of how the Bruins didn't respond or didn't build off of what they saw on Saturday. We'll dive a little bit more into this recent result, Ty. But before we do that, let's take a quick break here from our good friends over at Prize Picks. The leaves have fallen and the temperature is dropping, but you know what that means. Hockey season is finally here. And there's so many ways for you to get in on the action and win up to 100 times your cash with as little as 4 correct picks on Prize Picks, as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level on the ice, gridiron, court, and much more. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this hockey season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. PrizePicks invented the Flex Play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks now offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. There's really no shortage of ways to participate in Prize Picks, especially during hockey season. This week, I'm picking David Pastrnak for more than 0.5 goals and Nikita Kucherov for more than 1 assist. It's really that easy. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS on the Prize Picks app to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Shout out once again to our good friends over at Prize Picks. Ty, when you look at the way that game went, I think one thing that has plagued this team throughout the season has been the power play. They have 4 chances on Tuesday, have a prime opportunity to break the game open early, 5-on-3 for a minute 37, end up with only 2 shots on goal total on the power play. Can't get anything going. The urgency, the puck movement hasn't been there. And this has kind of been a trend since going back to last year, which I think is important to note, right? Like they were, I think, after the All-Star break, they were 16.1%. They were 1 for 16 on the power play against the Panthers. I think had 14 shots on goal in like 28 minutes of power play ice time. So not a lot of even the production, whatever. It's like you're not even getting quality chances on the power play. And I harken back to last year because, yes, you have Elias Lindholm in the middle now at the bumper position, but it's a lot of the same personnel from last year that still handed the keys to this power play. Like, it feels like, we can look, and we'll talk about, the lineup reshuffling going into this game against Carolina, but, man, it feels like that, it's not like one of those ones you take out the cartridge, blow the dust out. Like, I think you have to make some actual changes to that power play unit because you're just not getting remotely enough in terms of even just quality chances, like let alone the puck going into the net.
Yeah, they're not generating enough. And I think we're at the point now where I find it a little confusing that Jim Montgomery will shuffle all of his lines every 5.5 minutes, but he'll never shuffle the top power play unit when it's not producing. It hasn't produced. I mean, you look at the goal that they score against Toronto, the David Pastrnak one, that's what they got to do. And they didn't do it. It was an aggressive kill. They took what they could get. They went down low because it was an aggressive kill, and that's how they found their magic there. They don't do that, though. They don't do that consistently enough. They are way too stationary. There's little to no movement almost all the time. It's completely predictable. I think that at times it looks way too casual in terms of it's just guys, tossing a beanbag back and forth. Like no, you gotta get some misdirection here. You gotta get some movement. You gotta get Killer's head spinning, and they don't do that enough. And I am of the belief, and I've said this on this podcast and other podcasts before, like I am of the belief that unit flows better with a lefty. It doesn't mean that Charlie McAvoy is a bad defenseman, but I don't think he's a strong fit for maximum efficiency with that top unit. And maybe he's not a power play quarterback. There's nothing wrong with that. Chara wasn't one either. He was still your best defenseman, but he wasn't a power play quarterback. I feel like that's kind of where I'm at with McAvoy now, where I just don't see him being that traditional sort of number one power play quarterback. And that sucks for him because he's in the age of that guy being the Norris guy, Makar, Yossi, go up and down the list, like Adam Fox. Like those guys are PP1 QBs. I don't think he's that guy. And it doesn't mean he's a bad player, but man, is it rough to watch that top unit right now.
Yeah, it's almost like for McAvoy, I think I mentioned this to you. It's like, would you rather him be a 40, 45 point guy and be like a Jacob Slavin as the bedrock of your defense and still can do a little bit of everything? Like, not saying you need to be a stationary, stay at home guy like that. Like, would you rather be a guy that can chip in offensively, can help out on the second unit or something like that, and can still be kind of that rover out there on defense, can lay big hits? Or would you rather him try to be like a 55, 60 point guy when, again, the case can be made that a lefty up high is probably better in terms of just, I think it's just like it's not like they're completely stagnant, but there is that half second where, again, you're going up against other pro hockey players, these guys that are really good penalty killers. That half second can mean the difference between a puck sailing past, going through a passing lane, going through the slot, anything like that. You're just not getting as much of, putting PKers like heads, like, having them spinning out there. Like you need kind of that unpredictability, that kind of versatility on that power play. That's something you saw like during the heyday with the guys like Krug, like how quick they moved the puck, how they could, bring the puck down along the half wall, make those things happen. You're not seeing that nearly as much. And you can't just have it all feed through David Pastrnak. Even if they're, they ramp up the passing and they play with more pace. You still need more than just it ending with Pastrnak finding a little bit of soft air of the ice to get a shot off. You need other guys to step up, and I think it all comes back to like the urgency not being there. And I think it all goes back to, as you said, up high with what you're getting from your power play quarterback. It's, again, I don't know if it's not an indictment on him. He's still a great player, but I think there's other guys that are probably better suited for what that role entails with this group right now.
Yeah, and I think that McAvoy has an underrated shot. I think he's probably better as a shooting threat than a passing threat on that unit. And you go back to, I want to say I don't know if it was 2 years ago or last year, they kind of admitted that they didn't think that Charlie McAvoy rather, was this sort of traditional power play quarterback, and they actually let him be more of like a rover on the power play where he was activating down low. He was going to the front of the net. He was going behind the net. But like it got teams being like, what the hell is this guy doing right now? And I can't remember. I'm sorry. I can't remember if that was 2 years ago or last year when they kind of acknowledged it. But then they kind of went back on that and they were like, no, no, he's gonna run it. And it's like, okay, well, when you got Lowry there, who is their most naturally gifted offensive thinking defenseman. And then you have Hampus Lindholm, who, if I tweeted these numbers out last night, you look at the numbers, power play's been phenomenal with him out there with Marchand and Pastrnak. Like, you're kind of hitting the point now where you're saying, okay, you're struggling to score 5-on-5. Your PK is on the kill too much. Your power play is almost going to carry you. How are we not putting out the best players on that power play for maximum efficiency? And I think you're kind of hitting that point here soon where, like, you're going to have to make a change to that top unit. And I think it begins at the point. I think it begins with the quarterback. It doesn't mean that McAvoy can't play it. It's just, I don't know if, like, I think to your point, like, there are times where you're watching it, and you're watching it this year when it's struggling, where he's got the puck on his stick, and the play is just kind of lingering. It's not, there's no decision being made, and that's allowing the killers to kind of be like, oh, we know he's not going to shoot it, so we're going to inch out here higher on Marchand and Pastrnak, and you see it, and it's a turnover. It's like, oh my God, like, you got to be quicker thinking, which is so frustrating because you watch that power play goal against Toronto, quick thinking. They knew what they were doing right away. Too many times, it's too stagnant. It's not processing information fast enough, and I think that begins at the top there.
Yeah, so we will see if any changes happen there moving forward. I think that it has to be a big key for this team going into Carolina or whenever they decide to make a switch there. But as we wait to see what exactly they do with the power play, they also made some changes up front with their forward grouping during Wednesday's practice. Before we dive into that, Ty, though, let's take another quick break. Hear from our friends over at Game Time Tickets.
There's nothing like watching an NBA or NHL game live. The energy in the building, the sounds on the ice or the court, the memories you make with family, friends, and other fans. It's unmatched. And the coolest part is when strangers sitting around you become your best friends. You can make these memories with Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. When I use Game Time, I also love the flash deals, which help me get discounted prices on really good seats. Plus, who doesn't love seat views, which give a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy? So, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Now, back to the show.
Shout out once again to our good friends over at Game Time Tickets. Ty, on Wednesday, the Bruins returned to Warrior Ice Arena before heading out to Carolina, and we've seen Jim Montgomery this year put lines in a blender, change things up quite a bit. Wednesday's was pretty jarring, I would say, in terms of what they rolled out there. I'll just run through it because I have it up here. Your new top line, Johnny Beecher, Pavel Zacha, and David Pastrnak. Second line, Brad Marchand, Elias Lindholm, Mark Kastelik. Third line, I guess, Frederick, Patra, Brazeau. And then your fourth line, Max Jones, Charlie Coyle, and Cole Koepke. Tyler Johnson was there, but wasn't really part of any lines. And Morgan Geekie.
Just go home if you're not going to sign him now, dude. What are we doing?
Yeah. Unless they're just banking cap space and they sign them tomorrow. Again, I've been waiting for the last couple of days. As soon as Tufte was sent down to Providence, I was like, all right, when's this going to happen? Hasn't happened yet. But also Morgan Geekie, same boat, skated, but seems like he's looking at another scratch moving forward. But I don't know. That's a pretty sizable shakeup in terms of what you have there. You're splitting up your fourth line in hopes of, Montgomery said today that they're hoping that putting those guys on different lines, guys kind of read off of them and follow their lead in terms of how they want to play. And then you look at the top line of Elias Lindholm and David Pastrnak has not worked out, and they've now been split up. What do you take away from this latest complete reshuffle from this group? Like, is anything you look at that's like, I'm intrigued, or are you like, yeah.
So when I saw this today, full disclosure, I was not at practice today. I was working on some other stuff. Mm-hmm. I saw you guys tweeting out these lines, and I just went, sure. Like, I'm at that point now where it's like, sure, why not? I don't know what more you can do. I think you've tried. I think maybe this is Jim Montgomery looking at my tweet last night where I said they've tried every combination possible and saying, no, I haven't. And then he throws this out there. I mean, sure, whatever. I don't think that it's really going to make a difference in terms of, like, we sit here and we wonder why they have no chemistry. Well, is this hurting them? Like switching the lines every game. I don't think there's been a lot of chemistry developed here. I don't know if certain players fit with certain guys. I have very limited sample sizes to see if they do. But yeah, sure. You want to try this? I guess go for it. Like whatever. At this point, I don't know what more you can do. With your current roster before you start reaching outward and trying to figure out what you have, maybe down in Providence, or you sign Tyler Johnson. But are we going to sit here and say, like, oh, this is the one? Like, I don't know. I have no idea, because I have no confidence that these lines that we're going to see out of the gate Thursday are going to finish the game Thursday being together. He switches them too much. So it seems like a waste of time for us to sit here and go, oh yeah, no, this is the combo, this is the fit, because he's going to switch it. He's going to switch it in a period and a half.
Yeah.
That's been the the standard operating procedure here through the first 10 games of the year. And so I'm not going to think it's going to change now. But I mean, let's focus on what happened last night. Last night they give Brazeau right wing 2 minutes out of the gate. By the end of the night, it's Mark Kaslik there. It's like, when those are your two go-to options behind David Pastrnak on your right side depth chart, like, you're going to have problems. And that's not a knock on those guys. They do their job well. Their job, however, is not second line right wing. It's just not.
Yeah, no, and I think you look at, if there's one, like, maybe duo that's had a pretty solid sample size so far, has been Lindholm and Pastrnak, and that has not worked yet, right? I mean, you've got the Bruins have had 2 5-on-5 goals when they've been out there for 95 minutes. They've given up 2 goals during that 95 minutes. The Bruins have given up 24 high danger chances, generated 12. I didn't become a journalist to become a math major, Ty, but I don't believe that's very good, especially for a line that is expected to shoulder a lot of the scoring burden out of the gate. It hasn't been there. And I mean, Montgomery today on Wednesday was pretty much like, I mean, it was asked, Steve Conor, the Herald asked, like, are you surprised or why they haven't gelled yet so far, Lindholm and Pastrnak? And Montgomery replied, quote, I don't know. It should work. 2 smart hockey players, 2 players that can see the ice really well, 2 players that can shoot and pass, 2 players that can skate. Just hasn't materialized, so we're changing it up. Like, and I think that is, again, probably one of the dominoes that why everything's out of whack. Like, listen, we've seen this team, especially in years past, struggle to score at 5-on-5, and they've been bolstered by a really good power play and a really top-heavy offensive output. It's kind of like what teams like Tampa Bay have been doing for a couple of years as well. When your top line that has really talented players isn't carrying, maybe above what their expected output is, how much can you, again, like, that's why you're now relying on your fourth line to shoulder that burden. Like, it is pretty surprising that when you look at just how many lines Pastrnak has elevated, whether it's Zacha the last couple of years or like Eric Holla when he was his centerman for a year, to have it not work so far with Lindholm is pretty surprising.
Yeah, would you say, in your opinion, like, and this is where would you say that's been a product of Lindholm not playing well or Pastrnak not playing well?
I'd probably more on Pastrnak. I think Lindholm's, like, the details have been there. Like, I don't think I think you're noticing him on a lot of these shifts, but a lot of the pucks are getting turned over. Or they're just dying on Pasternak's stick, where it's just, you're not seeing that creativity. It's not saying that Lindholm is a super creative guy in the offensive zone and they're looking like a 60s Soviet team out there in the offensive zone or anything like that. But Lindholm's doing the little things that you notice, especially early on, of like, he's doing the little things that lead to high danger chances or quality shifts at the very least, but nothing's materializing, which is surprising.
Yeah, because like what I would say is I thought that he generated maybe arguably their best chance of the night at even strength. Lindholm did on Tuesday night against Philadelphia, and so I'm not against like switching it up here a little bit. I don't know who I put the blame on there. Because I think both guys have had pockets where I think they played really well. Like, I thought that Pastrnak was at his best in that Toronto game. And I thought Lindholm, to your point, has been really good with the details, the winning extra battles, maintaining possession, just kind of setting guys up. But, like, the results haven't been there. But as a line, they haven't been effective so far. So I actually, we're starting to see the one thing that I want to see, which is having Coyle, Zacha, and Lindholm center their own lines. I think that makes you a much deeper team down the middle. And if you're stronger down the middle, maybe it frees up your wingers a little bit more, right? And you're a little bit better as a result. So I don't hate the idea in theory, but again, like, how does that play out in a game? How long of a rope do these guys get with their new line mates? What does it look like? Because I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you can tinker all you want, but if you're only going to give it 7 minutes before you throw it out the window, I don't really think it matters much. And I think that's where I'm kind of at here. So for me, it's like, Like, I understand the people online that are like, you got to fire Jim Montgomery, you got to do something. It's like, how many buttons can you really press, right? And I think that you only have so many you can try, but I think you got to let them stick together for a little while to get a really good idea. Like, so I'm on board with breaking up Lindholm and Pastrnak for now, but these new combinations, you got to give more than a period to find out anything, or you're going to keep hitting your head off the wall again and again trying to find something, and you're not really going to be any closer to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, we will see how it all plays out on Thursday against Carolina. Task easier said than done when you look at just how much the Bruins have struggled down there, but we'll see how much leeway Montgomery gives this reshuffled forward group. So, Ty, before we let you go, where can we read your stuff? Where can we hear you on the airwaves? All that good stuff.
You can find me in hell. No,
Oh
sorry.
my God. That's how most of us feel the way this year's gone.
It's unbelievable. You can find me at 985sportshub.com on the radio, 985 Sports Hub podcast, the Sports Hub Underground. You can also find me on X at _Ty Anderson. I got to get better about using threads in my Facebook page. I'm very sorry if you follow me on there. I'm not good at it. I'm trying. Social media is a nightmare. I'm trying my best. Please just trust me when I say that.
It's the thought that counts.
Right. And so that's where you can find me. There'll be a new app, I'm sure, soon where you can find me as well. So yeah. So that's where I am. How about yourself?
Yeah, so you can find me over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. We have covered every step of the way with recaps, features, columns, breakdowns, all that good stuff. So you can read me over there. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it is, you can at Conor Ryan _93. So this was episode 273 of Poke the Bear. I'm Conor Ryan. That is Ty Anderson. You fans have a great rest of your week.